Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Future Quake Show. I'm Dr. Future, and today we have a very prestigious guest with us for our show, Mr. Darrell Castle, who is the Vice Presidential Candidate Nominee of the Constitution Party, is with us, and we're going to be talking about the constitutional movement in the 2008 presidential election. And Mr. Castle, I really want to welcome you to the Future Quake Show.
Well, thank you very much. I'm very happy to be with you. It's my pleasure.
Well, I tell you, it's an honor to have you with your incredibly busy schedule right here in the thick of the campaign to come on our show. And I want to jump right into it because I know your time is short. And I want to talk a little bit about our situation with evangelicals, which are a big part of our listening audience on the show, because the evangelicals and their leadership currently are very now reluctantly rallying behind John McCain. And I guess I could best describe it as that they're going behind the evil that's a little bit less evil than the other evil in their frame of thinking. Even though John McCain calls evangelicals agents of intolerance, per my recollection, and in fact, from my observation, even formed somewhat of a senatorial mafia group called the Gang of 12, to stop conservative Supreme Court and other judge nominees, which I know has been supposedly a real priority of the evangelical movement leadership, while yet voting for people like Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And generally, I've seen in his career, he's stood against most of what evangelicals stand for. Now, given this dichotomy in their reluctant support with him versus what his stands are, do you think, Mr. Castle, that are evangelicals somewhat masochistic and self-destructive by basically supporting a party that never really ever delivered for them or their interest, and basically appears to me to presume that they're fools and whose support they can always be relied upon? Or does the leadership of the evangelical movement live under some kind of delusion that they have still some kind of non-existent power within the Republican Party, which they're afraid of losing, regardless of what type of individuals they support there that are opposed to their principles? How can you explain their commitment there?
Well, the term masochistic, I don't think is accurate. Self-destructive, maybe only by accident. It's really difficult to tell the mind of people. Only God knows our real motives.
Sure.
And knows our hearts. But I've had the opportunity since I've been involved with this campaign, and before I even knew that I would be considered as a candidate, when we were interviewing and looking at other people as candidates, I had the opportunity to meet with most of the people that you would refer to as national level evangelical leaders at one time or another to discuss possible candidates, and I came to an understanding of what their thinking is, and it's kind of a combination of many things. I think you pointed out that they fear Obama. Well, there's always someone to fear. If we want to concentrate on evil instead of looking at what God really wants for us, we'll always find someone to fear. We feared Clinton, and here we are so many years later, mired down in 2 wars, a $9.7 trillion debt. I could go on and on. But,
right. Just like the nation of Judah, I believe, relied in Egypt, in the armies of Egypt, to protect them against Nebuchadnezzar.
Yes.
Fear should never be a means by which to drive us to people who we don't share principles with.
Well, that's right. The one thing I would say, if I had to be critical of these leaders in some respect, I would say that they seem to they talk about principle, but when push comes to shove, party is more important than principle. Because I can point out many ways to you, in my experience in this campaign and studying the issues, whether you're talking about Obama or McCain, they both, on the, say, 3 or 4 most critical issues to our country, and I realize those are debatable, but I'm talking about issues that really could determine whether we live or die as a nation. Both these men, on all of those issues, say that they're going to make the problems worse. Illegal immigration, the North American Union, all those problems connected together, our energy situation, crisis, if you will, the economy, and the foreign policy problems that we face now. They all say we'll make these problems worse than they are, and I can tell you directly from their own speeches what I mean by that. But if you're going to vote for someone who is going to destroy your country, what difference does it make what party he's in?
Right, exactly. Well, and I need to tell my listeners here, they know me very well, and they know that I have some pretty strong opinions, although generally on Future Quake, we let our guest really deliver the opinions that we consider here. And this may be something that's a little bit more near and dear to my heart, why I'm a little more passionate about it. But I don't mean to be leading in my questions here, so I don't want to put words in your mouth, Mr. Castle, of what I happen to share with. I just have some hard questions, and I thought maybe you might help explain some of these things to me. To contrast, on the positive side, the Constitution Party, which, if many of our listeners do not understand, is as I understand, the third largest party in our country, just under the Republican Party, in size, with more registered voters than I think either the Green or Libertarian Party, which is I hope everyone understood that, more than the Green or Libertarian Party, merely seeks, in my understanding of your platform, merely seeks to restrain the federal government to the limits our founding fathers very wisely placed upon it to preserve our own freedom as citizens. And it's, in essence, a consistent philosophy that dictates the platform of the party and the positions that you take, rather than just the winds of what the latest polls are, or a donation from high roller lobbyists that come in of influence. As a result of these I'm sorry?
No, that's okay. Go ahead.
Well, as a result of these fundamental positions that you have that you can explain further, the Constitution Party supports the civil right of life for the unborn, our freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and right to educate our children as we see fit, responsible economic policy, respect for self-determination and not meddling in the affairs of other countries, all positions which I understand are consistent with what I understand the Bible-believing Christian evangelical views. What other positions do the Constitution Party support in support of this philosophy? And please clarify if I've mischaracterized you, but give our listeners a little bit more far-reaching understanding of the scope of your platform.
No, I don't think you've mischaracterized. It's we believe the Constitution is what it says it is. It's the supreme law of the land, and it's the founding document of this nation. It's the charter of the nation, and so we try to remain consistent with constitutional principles. And some other things that you didn't mention would be the right of self-defense as set out in the Second Amendment, and many other things within the boundaries of the Constitution. But some issues of today that are of concern to people, that are vital to America's survival, would be the issue of illegal immigration. I mean, depending on which poll you look at, 65 to 85% of people polled say that it's either their number one issue or it's a very important issue at least. And yet, many of those people, if not most of them, will vote for one of two men who, by their own actions and words, have said that they're going to make it even worse. The same could be said of our energy situation. The Constitution Party supports a plan for the United States to become independent for purposes of energy, to gain our own way in the world, so that we would not have to be dependent upon or blackmailed by, intimidated by, whatever you want to say it, the Middle East oil-producing countries, and we could be more self-determinant for our own foreign policy that way. And I know from having explored this with the leaders of many different companies in America, that the energy is there if we really want to exploit it. But neither one of these two men will, and by their own words, they tell us that.
I assume they're going to represent the high-paid people who are financing their campaigns, correct?
Well, they possibly, but there's an agenda there to keep America from becoming independent for energy. For example, Senator Obama recently, a week ago, well, it's been 2 weeks now. I guess time flies, but a week ago last Friday, he gave a speech in Lansing, Michigan. I was there, not in Lansing, but you could hear Lansing from where I was. And he said that his quote was, "We have to end the age of oil in our lifetime." In other words, he has an agenda that's going to stop the production of petroleum in the United States, which is a terrible mistake because the technology is there to do it cleanly now, to do it in an environmentally friendly fashion, and the energy is certainly there. Senator McCain and Obama both support the climate change control bill, recently defeated in the Senate. They both pledged to bring it back after they're elected. That would, in effect, end energy exploration in America. They both support the Kyoto protocols, which would be even worse and would require the American citizens to pay billions of dollars in taxes to essentially destroy our civilization and our way of life. Mm-hmm. I'm not exaggerating. These are all facts that these two men mm-hmm. both support. I mean, they're virtually identical in these issues.
Right.
You could go on with the economy. Obama's $850 billion poverty tax, and McCain's support for all these international institutions that he wants to tax us, his essential support for foreign entanglement of our military, and he's basically proposing military projects that can't be done without a general mobilization of our people. And to me, it's all madness. Mm-hmm. But
it seems to me a common theme is that whether not wanting us to make us energy independent or other approaches they have all entangle us further with internationalists that erode national sovereignty here. All these have a common theme where we have unelected people that aren't directly accountable to us that make the decisions that impact our pocketbook, impact our sovereignty, what our civil rights are, the safekeeping and well-being of our sons that are sent off to war. The positions of both of these parties is to push the power away from the average citizen and onto these other third-party groups in the shadows.